Hey, kia ora. Markie here with a shaky camera as per usual and looking particularly grizzled today. Hello, Walrus Watchers. Some of you will get that reference. I have just been gardening. I've just come in for a bit of a rest and fancied doing a bit of a vlog. So I'm all scruffy. I've got my scary, spooky bando on. I've got my Cookie Monster Pac-Man t-shirt on, which is usually one of my scruffies, but I don't think you care, do you? We don't stand on ceremony here, we're friends. So what I want to talk about is talking about gardening, something very earthy really. Dirty fingernails. Is most of you will probably have heard of Firewalks. So I'm going to talk about my Firewalk experience, but there was something more unusual that I did alongside the Firewalk, which fewer people have heard of, and which I've just tried to research online. I can't find anything about it, so it's very, very obscure, shaky. So if you know anything about this, then please tell me. Put something in the comments below. Do read the little box below, because there's lots of interesting and useful things in there, including some kind of Easter eggy kind of secret things that I put in each one of my videos. So look out for those. So let me tell the story from the beginning. Okay, I've always wanted to do a firewalk. I've always been terrified of the idea. I had the opportunity come up, so I went for it. And it was with some people that I knew, a group of people that I knew. And I turned up and the host kind of greeted me and she said, "How are you?" And I said, "Well, I'm treating myself." And she said, "What about the Firewalk?" And I said, "Yeah." And she said, "Oh, you don't want to be scared about that. You ought to see the thing we're doing first. Firewalk, you can just burn yourself. This other thing, you can be killed." So that was kind of quite an intriguing kind of greeting, really, which kind of didn't do much for my anxiety levels. So a firewalk, for those of you that may not know, is where you walk. You don't actually walk through fire. What you do is you walk over red hot embers, or burning red embers, and they're wood embers. I think, if not coal or anything, that wouldn't work. And for some reason, and if you look on Wikipedia, there's a long kind of scientific theory on what this reason might be. You don't burn your feet. But it's still, and it's used, lots of organisations use it, and it's used for personal development and things like that, to kind of show you what you can do and overcome fears, really, because obviously it's a very counterintuitive thing to do. So I was kind of up for this, but quite scared. So anyway, the evening began. And they introduced this other ordeal which came before the Firewalk, and we did it indoors, and it was called the broken arrow technique. Now, I understand this was an initiation that was practiced historically in some particular tribe somewhere in the world, but annoyingly I do not recall where it was. So like I say, if you do have any ideas or information on that, please let me know. I'd love to know where it was. I guess the anxiety probably didn't help my information retention. So what this was, okay, now, first of all, do not try this at home, folks, kids, because this was under the supervision of somebody that was actually trained and qualified in doing it, and there's a very definite technique to it, which I can't entirely remember, actually, so I wouldn't dream of trying to repeat this. So what you have, and there's a photo which I will try. I'm having some difficulty posting photos, but there's actually a photo of me doing this. So you have an arrow, and this is a normal arrow that, if you're an archer, modern day archer, this is what you'd buy from an arrow shop, with a metal tip, not sharp, kind of blunted, so not a pointy arrow like somebody would use for warfare, I guess, but the kind of arrows that they sell today for people that do bowie stuff, archery. And what you do is there's a little soft bit here, if you feel so. It's below the Adam's apple and above the collarbone. I think it's there. There's a little soft bit, and behind it is kind of I think it's your windpipe. I'm not entirely sure. This isn't an episode on demystifying anatomy, as you can tell. So, and you place the point of the arrow there, not with a great deal of pressure, but enough to hold it there. And on the other side of the arrow is basically a board, so it's a square board, wooden board, with a little kind of slight niche, a little kind of indentation in it in the center. Okay, so the other end of the arrow, the fletched end, so fletched, see, so you thought I didn't know anything about archery and arrows, and I said fletched. The end with the feathers is held by this board, and somebody holds the board. So okay, so you've got the arrow here, pointy end going into that soft little bit here, and you've got the other end of the arrow. There's somebody holding a board, so the arrow is held taut, you know, so the arrow is straight, taut. And on the given, not command, but instruction, what the initiate, because it was an initiation, right, has to do is lurch forward with all their strength, pushing against the arrow with their throat, the softest, most vulnerable part of the throat, until the arrow breaks. Okay, sounds good. Sounds like a good idea, good thing to do. Okay, well, there is a technique to it. Okay, so please don't try this at home. And I can't remember what the technique is, but that's what we were instructed in. So there's a certain thing that you have to do. If you don't do this, then the arrow would go right through you, and probably wouldn't go out the other side. It'd probably jam in your spinal column. So what you do, but you lurch forward with as much force as you can muster, so that the arrow splinters. And it does, and it's quite spectacular. The arrows, you know, the wooden arrows, they break up into lots of pieces, fly up into the air, fly quite a long distance. In fact, they're probably the most one of the most dangerous things about this, because obviously it is a safe technique, it's a trusted technique, is kind of actually, you should put goggles on really, because bits of splintered wood, you know, fly at great speed all around the room from this broken arrow. So you basically go in like that, with all the force you can muster to break this arrow. And I was in a group of people, quite a few people, I think at least 20 people. Nearly all people did it. Some people kind of, you know, kind of just couldn't bring themselves to do it, or they made a kind of one attempt and then kind of were put off. Yeah, I did have to keep the arrow for a long time, but I had to get rid of a lot of things when I moved. So I had this broken arrow. That was it wasn't just in 2 pieces, it was, you know, actually in several pieces. So what an amazing thing. So this is all about, you know, mindset really, showing you that you can do things that you don't believe that you can do. You know, and that's true. I think there are lots of examples, loads of examples for me of doing things that I said I could never do. I remember once I was filming, it's just a quickie really. We've kind of done that. I've kind of covered the topic now. This is a little piece of bonus information, okay, which I'll share with you, which relates to acting. An older actor's kind of anecdote, but a very short one. Before we do that, we'll do a quick commercial break. So if you like this video, please consider subscribing to the channel. The more subscribers I get, the more people that, and also hit that little like button. The more subscribers and likes and views and things like that I get, the more my videos get pushed forward, so they come up on people's feed, and the more people watch them. And some of my videos are quite serious and quite important, and talk about really important things that, you know, everybody should know. For example, the effects of internet pornography on the male brain. And how that actually is causing males to lose their sexual function and lose their ability to maintain erection with a partner. Pretty serious video. Other videos, things like domestic violence, all kinds of things, and some kind of more entertaining and interesting. So, and you'll get notifications if you subscribe and then click the little bell button. You'll get notified when I do a new video. And a range of things, some frivolous, some deadly serious. Okay, so please help me support my channel, because I'm serious about the serious messages that I'm trying to bring across. I do some fun stuff as well, which I enjoy, and I hope you enjoy as well. But I'm very passionate about this channel and trying to get the message across about serious things. Things like domestic violence, all kinds of things. Okay, so yeah, this acting anecdote. I used to do a bit of mainly kind of, you know, what they call extra work. So see my other video on Doctor Who, because that was my kind of pinnacle of my career. But I was asked to be in a film as a prisoner, and funnily enough, I've always been typecast as prisoners. I've been prisoner in a program called Ghost Hunter. I've been a prisoner in Down to Earth. and I was a prisoner in this film, which was Lucky Break. Now, unfortunately, Lucky Break, in terms of success of the film, it didn't have a lucky break. It kind of it bombed. Unfortunately, it was made by the same people that made Full Monty, and it had Bill Nye in and Timothy. I can never get his name right. Timothy Sproul. He used to be in Alfred Vida's Pet and was in Harry Potter and various other things, and quite a few other kind of quite well-known people. And it was about Prison Break, and it was set in Dartmoor Prison. And I was a prisoner walking around in the exercise yard, looking prisonerish. And I remember at the time thinking, God, I could never work in a place like this. I just could not do it. Within 10 years, I had a job in Dartmoor Prison as a drugs worker. And there's some weird things about that as well, because I was out of work, and at that time I've mainly been working, well, the biggest part of my kind of therapeutic career has been in addiction, drugs and alcohol. And I was out of work. The centre that I was working for, it was a very posh rehab that actually went bust. And so I was looking for work, and I thought there was a drugs worker job advertised in Dartmoor Prison. I didn't really want it, but I thought, well, I've got to pay the bills. And all my life I've had a prison phobia. I might tell you one day why I've got a prison phobia, because there's a very interesting and quite scary story about that. But we'll save that one for another day. So on the day of the interview, I got in my car and it wouldn't start. Maybe this is about the power of the unconscious mind, I don't know. And so my kind of wife at the time, I kind of ran home and said, can I borrow your car? Got in her car, that wouldn't start either. So that shows you the degree of kind of fear that I had in kind of taking on this prison job. So I think I got a train or a taxi or something, because I just had to bring in some money. So I interviewed for this job, got this job, and it was really interesting, sort of kind of somatization of stuff, because during the early days of doing this job I could hardly walk. All my joints kind of went, and there wasn't anything wrong with my joints. It was just sort of a psychosomatic thing. And I worked in Dartmoor Prison, and initially it was kind of, oh, fuck, but I actually got to quite like it. It's a very progressive prison. There's some really nice staff there. I didn't like the way of working there. It wasn't working with the kind of ethos that I like to work. It was very kind of treating harm minimization, and I don't really like working in harm minimization. I like working in actually treating addiction. That's where I come from. So I didn't stay there very long, but actually I was liberated. I was let off for a good bit. I had a lucky break, because I actually got headhunted and offered a job managing a rehab. And I talk a little bit about that stage of my life in my Owlman video, if you fancy watching that. But that is another story. I'm going to stop kind of telling lovey anecdotes now and name dropping and talking about working with Dickie and Larry and and such like, because I want to kind of leave you with the thought of the arrow, really, and what can be done. And the way it works is, essentially, very simply, and I can't remember the exact details of this, is by doing something. There's something that you do. The very soft kind of squidgy bit in your throat is actually shielded by some hard cartilage, which is tough as nails, and that is what enabled you to break the arrow. If you didn't do the technique, like I say, the arrow would just spear you. So please take away from this that we can do. And like Dartmoor Prison, thought I could never work there, ended up working there, enjoying it. Okay, walked over hot coals. Probably the other thing, just quickly, I guess, stand-up comedy. I always admired comedians, and I went on a comedy course. Not because I wanted to do comedy, but because I wanted to introduce more humour into some of my public speaking stuff and training that I do, and ended up doing stand-up comedy. And I always used to say I could never do that. So just think about the things that you think you could never do, because maybe you can. Rangi Marie.